It started with a voice, sharp, commanding, cutting through the roar of rotor blades and chaos. "Lieutenant Vega, step out of formation. That's an order." For a second, no one breathed. The team hovered in the desert heat, their black helmets reflecting the glare of the sun. Dust swirled around their boots, as if even the wind was waiting to see what she'd do. Lieutenant Aria Vega froze mid-step, her gloved fingers tightening on her rifle. Through the comms, a tense silence buzzed. Then, a click, her mic activating. "Copy that, sir," she said, her voice steady but cold. She turned sharply and walked out of line, shoulders stiff, every step echoing in her commander's chest. Captain Holt watched her move away, jaw clenched. He didn't blink. He couldn't afford to. She was one of his best soldiers, but she'd gone off script, disobeyed formation commands twice in 1 week, and questioned orders during mission briefings. In his world, hesitation wasn't bravery, it was a liability. The airbase around them throbbed with the hum of engines and distant artillery drills. This was Camp Harrison, a classified operations base somewhere in the Middle East. The mission that morning was simple on paper: escort a convoy of engineers through a contested zone, retrieve a captured informant, and extract before sundown. But nothing about this region had been simple for months. Vega stood at the edge of the tarmac, her silhouette sharp against the rising sun. Her helmet visor hid her eyes, but Holt knew what was under it. That same fiery defiance that had made her both a legend and a problem. He approached her slowly. "You're grounded for the mission," he said, voice low but firm. "We can't afford a repeat of last week." "Last week, sir, I saved 6 men," she shot back. "If I hadn't broken formation, we'd be bringing them home in bags." "That's not the point," Holt said, stepping closer. "You don't get to rewrite command protocol because your gut says so." Her mouth tightened, but she said nothing. The radio crackled, calling for final load-ins. The rest of the team climbed aboard the transport, engines roaring to life. Holt turned away from her. "Stay put," he said. "That's an order." Vega watched him walk off, the sound of boots fading under the engines. For a moment, she just stood there, breathing, thinking, burning. Then, quietly, she unlatched her helmet and whispered to herself, "Orders can be wrong." Minutes later, the convoy rolled out, and Vega was left behind in the haze of dust and noise. The desert had a strange way of holding silence. After the last helicopter lifted off, all that remained was wind and the hum of distant drones. Vega walked toward the control tent, where intelligence feeds flickered across multiple screens. She wasn't supposed to be there, but when had she ever cared about supposed to? Inside, 2 analysts were arguing in low voices. "I'm telling you, the recon feed's wrong," one said. "The enemy's not retreating, they're circling back." "How can you tell?" "Thermal imaging." "Look." Vega stepped closer, eyes narrowing. On the grainy screen, a formation of red heat signatures was moving, not away, but around. A classic pincer maneuver. The convoy was heading straight into it. She didn't think. She just moved. Grabbing a headset, she tuned into the secure channel. "Command, this is Lieutenant Vega. You've got hostiles repositioning south of the route. It's a trap. I repeat, it's..." Lieutenant Holt's voice cut through. "You're not authorized on this frequency. Step away from the comms. Sir, if you don't reroute in the next 2 minutes, they're walking into an ambush." "Stand down, Vega." Her heart pounded. On the monitor, the convoy icons kept moving. 1 more minute, and they'd be surrounded. "Sir," she said quietly, "I can't do that." And then she was gone, sprinting across the base toward the launch pads. By the time Holt realized what was happening, her jet bike had already roared to life. Dust exploded behind her as she shot across the desert, heading for the convoy's last known coordinates. "Vega!" Holt shouted into the comms. Turn that damn bike around. You're disobeying a direct. The transmission cut to static. In the command tent, the analysts exchanged nervous glances. Holt paced, fists clenching. Every instinct told him to send a drone to intercept her. But something made him stop. She'd been right before. Too many times, actually. Keep eyes on her, he ordered. The feed followed Vega as she sped across the barren landscape. The wind howled in her mic. Ahead, the faint black dots of the convoy were visible through the haze. But she could also see what they couldn't. Figures rising from the dunes, vehicles hidden beneath camo tarps, heat signatures flickering like ghosts. She switched channels. Convoy Alpha, this is Vega. You're surrounded. Pull back north now. Static. Then Vega, you're not supposed to be. Do it now, she screamed. An RPG streaked across the sky, slamming into the lead vehicle. The explosion tore through the sand. Vega veered hard, heart pounding as the shockwave nearly threw her off the bike. The ambush had begun. Gunfire crackled through her headset. Screams, chaos, the sound of metal and heat. She didn't stop. She jumped the ridge, landed hard and started firing. Her bike's mounted cannons lit up the dunes, carving paths through enemy positions. In the command tent, Holt and his team watched the feed. Stunned. She's engaging? One whispered. Get me satellite visuals now, Holt barked. The screen zoomed out and suddenly it was clear. The entire enemy strike team was converging on her. She was buying time for the convoy to turn back. Holt's chest tightened. Damn it, Vega. For the next 8 minutes, the desert became a blur of chaos. Vega darted between enemy fire, using every bit of cover she could find. Her ammo count blinked low. Her armor took hits. Still, she moved like she was untouchable. Convoy Alpha, status, she shouted. A voice crackled back. We're clear, thanks to you. Moving north. She smiled faintly. Copy that. Then, the sound. A sharp tone in her earpiece. A missile lock. She looked up. The sky shimmered with heat and smoke. Too late. The explosion lit up the horizon. The command tent fell silent. Holt's knees hit the ground. He tore off his headset. The feed was gone. Just static. Outside, the last of the convoy choppers came back in. Engines thundering. Medics ran. Officers shouted. And somewhere in the noise, Holt could still hear her last words echoing through the static. Orders can be wrong. 30 minutes passed. The sun was setting, painting the sand in blood-orange light. Holt stood alone at the edge of the tarmac, watching the horizon. His comms officer approached, pale-faced, holding a tablet. Sir, he said softly, intelligence just confirmed something. Holt turned. She wasn't acting alone, the officer said. She was leading a counter-strike, remote drones, coordinated in real time. She rerouted our air assets without authorization. Holt's eyes widened. She what? She led the strike, sir. Took out the entire ambush force. For a long moment, Holt couldn't move. The world felt distant. The noise, the light, everything fading into a slow, stunned silence. Then faintly through a cracked transmission line, a voice came through the static. Command, this is Vega. Target neutralized. The comms officer froze. Holt grabbed the radio. Vega, repeat. Is that you? A pause. Then, breathing, ragged but alive. Copy that, sir. Mission accomplished. And just like that, the feed died again. Holt stood there, staring into the radio, his reflection in the dark screen of the command console. For the first time in years, he didn't know what to say. The dust outside settled slowly, like the world itself was catching its breath. The night fell heavy over Camp Harrison, The kind of darkness that carried weight. The kind that swallowed sound and made the desert feel endless. Inside the command tent, lights flickered over Holt's tired face. He hadn't moved in hours. The convoy was safe. The reports were in. And somewhere out there, Lieutenant Aria Vega was either bleeding, lost, or... He replayed her last transmission again and again. "Command, this is Vega. Target neutralized." The way she said it, not triumphant, not desperate, just final. The analysts had tracked a last ping from her armor beacon near the ridge where the missile had hit. But the terrain was unstable, and the storm that followed had buried half the sector in sand. A recovery team had gone out twice, returning empty-handed both times. Holt didn't ask for a third, he just couldn't. He sat back, staring at the mission feed logs. There it was, the impossible timeline. Somehow, within 2 minutes of leaving base, Vega had hacked into the drone control network and redirected 3 aerial units without clearance codes. She'd effectively commanded a mini airstrike alone. Every shot, every hit, perfectly timed with her bike's movement. It wasn't chance. It was genius, and she'd done it all while disobeying orders. "Captain," a voice interrupted. It was Sergeant Liu, his second in command. "The Intel Bureau's on the line. They want to debrief you." Holt nodded slowly. "Patch it through." A cold voice came over the secure channel. "Captain Holt, this is Director March. We've reviewed the mission footage. You ordered Lieutenant Vega out of formation. Correct?" "Yes, sir." "On what ground?" She was insubordinate. Questioning field orders, overriding formations, yet she's the reason the convoy survived, March cut in. Holt said nothing. There was a pause. Then the director continued. "We ran a full analysis on the engagement. Her counterstrike eliminated 43 hostiles in under 8 minutes. That's a higher precision rate than our automated systems." Still silence. March's voice hardened. "Captain, you grounded a soldier who saw what you didn't. I'm not here to judge your leadership, but the Pentagon is. Expect inquiry." The line went dead. Holt leaned forward, elbows on his knees. The words echoed in his head like a slow hammer. "You ordered her out of formation, and she led the strike. Outside, the base had gone quiet. Only the wind moved, whispering through the tents." He stood up and walked toward the airfield, where the horizon still shimmered faintly with the remnants of distant fire. Somewhere out there, she'd fought alone against his orders to save them all. The guilt was heavier than his armor. The next morning, as the first light spilled over the dunes, the search team returned. Holt didn't expect anything. But then Sergeant Liu came running from the vehicles, face pale and eyes wide. "Sir, you need to see this." They led him to the back of a transport. Inside, laid across a stretcher, was Vega's helmet, cracked and burned on one side and her tactical drive still sealed. "She's not here," Liu said quietly. "No body, just these." Holt picked up the drive. It was still warm. He slid it into a terminal nearby. The screen came alive with code, maps, flight paths, but then it stopped on a message file. A single video clip. He hesitated, then pressed. Vega's face appeared, streaked with dust and sweat. The sky behind her burned orange with the setting sun. She was in the middle of the battlefield, helmet off, eyes bright and unafraid. "If you're seeing this," she began, her voice calm, "I guess I didn't make it back." Holt's chest tightened. "I didn't go rogue," she continued. "Not really. I just saw what no one else wanted to. The intel feeds were wrong. Someone's been feeding us doctored recon data. I found traces of it last week. That's why I questioned your orders. They weren't yours, sir. They were coming from inside the system." Holt frowned, leaning closer. I rerouted the drones manually because the override code was traced to our own command servers. Someone's using this base to leak mission routes. That ambush wasn't luck, it was planned. Her voice trembled slightly, but she smiled. You once told me orders keep us alive. Maybe they do, but sometimes they're the reason we die. The screen glitched, static ripping through her last words. Holt stared at the monitor, his heart hammering. A data leak inside Camp Harrison. It wasn't disobedience, it was infiltration. Get me tech on this now, he barked. Within minutes, the command tent was alive again, screens lighting up, officers rushing in, voices overlapping. The data trail from Vega's drive showed a backdoor program hidden deep within the comms relay. Someone had been rerouting intel through an encrypted channel to an unknown location for months. Lou turned to Holt, pale. Sir, whoever did this has high-level clearance. Holt clenched his fists. Run every signature, every code stamp. I want names. Hours passed. The tension grew thick enough to taste. Then one of the analysts froze. Sir, it's coming from inside the leadership network. Holt's stomach dropped. Who? The analyst hesitated. Director March. For a second, no one moved. Then Holt said quietly, You're sure? Positive, sir. His encryption key matches the reroute logs. Holt exhaled slowly. It made sense now. The immediate call, the probing questions, the quick blame. Vega had stumbled onto something she wasn't supposed to find. That's why her data feeds had been tampered with. That's why the ambush happened. And she'd still gone out there to stop it. Get me a secure channel, Holt said. Sir, he'll know. I said now. When the director's face appeared on screen, Holt didn't bother saluting. Captain Holt, March said coolly. I assume you found something. You used my soldiers as bait, Holt growled. You sold reach to the highest bidder. March's smirk didn't falter. Careful, Captain. You're speaking to a superior. Not for long. Before March could respond, Holt hit transmit, sending the data logs directly to Central Command. Within seconds, alarms went off. March's face flickered, then vanished. The feed died. The room went silent again. Holt stood there, breathing hard. It was over. Almost. A week later, word came down March was in custody. The leaks were confirmed. Vega was officially declared KIA, though no one found her body. They held a ceremony at the base, her helmet displayed under the flag. Holt stood there, head bowed, as the wind carried the sound of taps over the dune. When it ended, he stayed behind. Everyone else had gone. The desert stretched before him, endless and golden. He placed his hand on her helmet and whispered, You were right, Aria. Orders can be wrong, but you weren't. Then faintly, almost too soft to be real, his radio crackled. Command. This is Vega. He froze. Reading you loud and clear, she said, her voice steady, calm. Don't send a search team. I'm off-grid for now. There's still work to do. Vega, he whispered, where the hell are you? A pause. Then, somewhere they can't find me. Keep the base clean. Watch the skies. And the line went dead. Holt stared out at the horizon for a long time after that. The desert looked the same as always. Quiet, vast, empty. But he couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere out there she was watching. That night, he wrote one final note in the mission log. Lieutenant Aria Vega, presumed alive. Status, unconfirmed. Classification, Go. He never told anyone about the transmission. Months later, during another operation halfway across the world, an enemy base was hit by a precision drone strike. No origin, no authorization, no warning. Just one clean line of code left in the wreckage. for those who see what others don't. And deep down, Holt knew exactly who sent it. Sometimes the people we push away are the ones who save us. Not because they follow orders, but because they know when not to.